You're at the car dealership. You've done your research, you know your budget. Then the salesperson says it. This model, fully loaded, lists for $45,000. But for you. And just like that, the game changes. Every number that follows, your offer, their counteroffer, the final price, is now tethered to that initial $45,000. Even if your research says it's worth $38,000. Your brain starts orbiting that first number. You might negotiate down to $41,000 and feel like you got a deal, when in reality, you've been nudged since the first sentence. This isn't bad negotiation. It's a brain bug, a cognitive glitch so powerful and so subtle that it shapes the salary you accept, the house you buy, the deadlines you set, and even the donation amounts you click online. It's called the anchoring effect. Today on Brainful Bites, we're exposing the invisible puppet master that hijacks your decisions. We'll hit the classic mind-bending experiments that prove how easily your brain gets pulled. And then we'll build a toolkit so you can fight back, break free from the first number, and take back control. Let's define the villain. Anchoring is our brain's tendency to latch on to the very first number it encounters, the anchor, and then base later judgments and choices around that starting point. The wild part, the anchor works even when it's arbitrary or irrelevant. Classic example, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, 1974. Participants spin a rigged wheel of fortune that lands on 10 or 65. Then they get an unrelated question. What percentage of African nations are members of the United Nations? Those who saw 10 guessed much lower than those who saw 65. A random number from a game of chance pulled their estimates. The brain grabbed the number in view and adjusted too little. It gets stranger. Ariely, Lowenstein, and Prelick, 2003, showed coherent arbitrariness. People anchored their willingness to pay for items to the last two digits of their social security number. Totally arbitrary, yet their later choices were internally consistent around that arbitrary starting point. In other words, once an anchor seeds your internal scale, your decisions can look rational, relative to a random seed. So why does anchoring happen? Two big mechanisms drive it. Anchoring and adjustment. Your brain loves shortcuts. Instead of computing from scratch, it starts at the anchor and adjusts. But adjustment takes effort, and under time pressure or cognitive load, we adjust too little. We stop as soon as a number feels plausible, which is usually still too close to the anchor. Selective accessibility. Mustweiler and Strack showed that anchors don't just give you a starting point, they change what information your brain searches for. A high anchor primes you to recall reasons the true value could be high. A low anchor primes low consistent evidence. Anchor-consistent facts feel easier to retrieve and more convincing, crowding out contradictory information. And no, expertise doesn't give you a force field. Northcraft and Neal, 1987, gave real estate agents identical property dossiers but different listing prices. Appraisals tilted toward the list price, even among pros. English, Musweiler, and Strack found legal professionals swayed by sentencing demands. When exposed to higher anchors, even from dice rolls, judges assigned longer sentences. This bias has real stakes. There are also subtler pulls. Scale compatibility. Your judgment drifts toward the unit that's highlighted. Per month prices feel smaller than per year totals. $39 per month and $468 per year are the same math, different anchors. Numeric precision. Precise numbers like $58,750 versus $60,000 feel more informed and less negotiable, creating stickier anchors. Defaults and compare-at prices. Reference prices on shopping sites calibrate what fair feels like before you think. When can anchoring shrink? Strong base rates, incentives to be accurate, accountability, and time to think all reduce, but rarely eliminate the pull. Multiple well-justified anchors can dilute any single one. Awareness helps, but procedures beat willpower. Okay, what do we do about it? Let's build your anti-anchor toolkit. 5 strategies you can use today. Strategy 1. Drop the first anchor and make it defensible. In negotiations, going first gives you a huge psychological edge, so come in ready. Do your homework. Collect market comparables, documented impact, or objective metrics before the meeting. Use a high but defensible number. Ambitious, not ridiculous. Be precise, like $112,500 sounds researched. $110,000 sounds rounder and more negotiable. Pair with a sentence of rationale. Based on market rates for this role and my last year results increasing X by 28% and reducing Y by 17%, I'm seeking $112,500. Now the conversation orbits your reference point, not theirs. Ethical note: use this to clarify fair value, not to exploit. Strategy 2. If they anchor first, counter-anchor immediately. You won't always get the first word. Don't argue from their number, replace it. Acknowledge and pivot. That's quite a bit different from what my data suggests. Introduce your anchor with evidence. Based on comparable projects A, B, and C, timelines land between 10 to 14 weeks. I'm anchoring on 12 weeks, P50, 16 weeks, P80. Reframe the reference class. Shift the comparison set to something meaningful, e.g., market comps, total cost of downtime, lifetime value. If the anchor is extreme, label it as such and restate your range. Silence after you drop your counter anchor can also help reset the focal point. Strategy 3. Preload your brain with better anchors. Guard against wishful numbers by anchoring yourself before the meeting even starts. Base rates first. Pull outcomes from similar past cases, what actually happened, not what was promised. Write P50 and P80 ranges. Most likely and safer estimates prevent single-point optimism. Unit flip. Convert to multiple units so no single framing dominates. Per week, per feature, total person hours. Decide before exposure. Record your range in writing before you see anyone else's figure. If feasible, timestamp it. This inoculates you against the inevitable "we can do it in 2 weeks" anchor. Strategy 4. Use multiple, independent anchors for big decisions. One anchor is dangerous. 3 independent ones create triangulation. Build estimates from different models: outside view, reference class, bottom up, sum of parts, and benchmark or market comps. Keep them independent. Don't let the first estimate leak into the others. Collect separately, then reveal all at once. Converge deliberately. Lay the 3 side by side and ask, why do they differ? Which assumptions drive gaps? This reduces over-reliance on any single early anchor and improves accuracy. Strategy 5. The blank slate reset. When you feel a number pulling you, create a clean starting line. Pause and ask, if I had never seen that number, what would my estimate be based on evidence and base rates? Write your anchor-free figure first, on paper or in your notes. Cement it. Only then adjust. If you must consider the other number, adjust from your evidence-based starting point, not theirs. Add friction to fast anchors. If you're under time pressure, buy time. I'll get you a number after I check comps. Time expands adjustment. Optional micro moves to stack with the 5. Change the scale. Evaluate per use cost or per year impact to neutralize per month anchors. Sanity check with extremes. Ask, what's the best plausible case, worst plausible case? This stretches adjustments further from the initial anchor. Get a devil's adjuster. A teammate pre-commits to arguing for larger adjustments away from the first number. Let's put this into everyday context so it sticks. Shopping. That was $149, now $89. Tag is a reference price anchor. Blanket it. If I only knew the $89 price, would I pay it? Also, unit flip. Break it down per use. If it's $89 for something you'll use twice, that's $44.50 per use, not a bargain. Subscriptions. $39 per month feels smaller than $468 per year. Flip units to annual totals before deciding. Then ask, what value did I actually get last year? That's your outside view anchor. Project scoping. Before kickoff, open a doc titled Base Rates. List similar projects, actual durations, overruns, and risk factors. Record P50 and P80, bring it to the meeting, and lead with those numbers. Salary. Prep your anchor and rationale.
If they throw out a low ball, counter-anchor quickly and reset the reference set. For roles with X responsibility at companies of size Y, comp bands are A to B dollars. Based on my results, I'm anchoring at B dollars. Home or car buying. Generate 3 valuations: market comps, discounted cash flow of ownership costs or savings, and a walk-away threshold tied to your budget. Reveal them together to prevent the listing price from dominating. Quick science recap before we close. Anchoring distorts judgments even with arbitrary numbers. Tversky and Kahneman, 1974, Ariely et al., 2003. It works via insufficient adjustment and selective accessibility. Strack and Muswiller. Expertise helps but doesn't immunize. Northcraft and Neal, 1987. English, Muswiller, and Strack, 2006.
Strong base rates, multiple anchors, and accountability reduce, but don't erase the effect. Units and precision matter. The first scale and the exactness of a number quietly calibrate what feels reasonable. This doesn't mean your brain is broken. It means your brain is efficient, and sometimes that efficiency gets gamed. Awareness is step 1. Better procedures are step 2. Your job isn't to eliminate anchors. That's impossible. Your job is to choose better ones on purpose. This week's challenge: spot one anchor in your life. It could be a compare at price, a suggested tip, a first timeline, or a default setting. Run the blank slate reset. Write your anchor-free estimate based on base rates and evidence. Add one safeguard. Either do a unit flip or create a quick P50 to P80 range, or counter-anchor with a rationale. Then tell us, what's the most surprising anchor you've fallen for? Which strategy did you try and what changed? Drop your story in the comments. Your example might become a mini case study in a future episode. If this episode helped you see the hidden numbers steering your choices, share it with a friend who's negotiating or budgeting right now. And tell us which bias you want next in our Cognitive Bias Bootcamp: framing effects, loss aversion, or availability. Until next time, keep your brain hungry and your anchors chosen, not imposed.